Okay. So the document has this first part where it says apology introductions. Okay, so in the section of the Iliad that we just read, Achilles and Agamemnon kind of apologize to each other and apologize to the Greeks for all of their rage. They're not great apologies, honestly, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But last time in class, we were talking about introductions, and I want to give us a chance to try to write our own introduction. So let me show you just what we were doing with that. Here's the introduction PowerPoint. Nope, that's an introduction to me. That's not what you need. Argument introductions, that's what we need. Okay, so it looked like this. And I'll just go really quickly, just as a review. There were two types of intros. One was a hook, where you're trying to like get people's attention right away. The other one was a funnel, where you are starting really broad and you move down until you get to your thesis. An argumentative introduction will always have the thesis at the end of that first paragraph, at least in the size of paper we're doing. Sometimes when you get into really long papers or books, the thesis might come a little bit later, but I'll never make you write something over 5 pages probably, and so you don't need it anywhere else, just at the end of that introduction paragraph. So in the hook, you start with something interesting, right? So you start with a controversial opinion, or you start with something shocking, or a quotation of some kind, a detailed description or interesting story, and you want to make sure they're interesting stories, right? Not like kind of dull ones. And we talked about how the stories are interesting when you add descriptive detail into them, right? So that's the hook style. And then there was that funnel style, where you start really broad and then you move on. And when you start broad, it's not like in the history of the world, there have always been conflicts. No, you want to start kind of broad, but you still want your audience to get an idea of what your topic is going to be. So there was this example where it's like, your topic is going to be about making kids' lives easier, right? So it starts broad, but not too broad. And I had this about avoidance. Avoid cliches, avoid definitions of well-known words, and especially these two. Avoid statements that are too broad, and questions. No questions. I made the suggestion that you don't write any questions at all in your argumentative essays. All right. Oh, I've got some comments going on. Am I still really glitchy? I'm okay now? Okay. Some people yes, some people no. Ooh, that's hard. Well, okay. I think, Maggie, what happens if you turn off your camera? I'm hoping that helps a little. Well, if it keeps being glitchy, luckily, I'm not going to have to talk too much today. So that's good news for both of you. And when I say 5 pages, like, you're not going to have to write 5 pages anytime soon, don't worry. Do I have other programs running? Well, that's a good idea. Maybe Google Docs is slowing me down. Or PowerPoint is slowing me down. Does Maggie have any other programs running? Okay, I'm gonna have to move on, and I can troubleshoot with Maggie. So what I want you to do on that Google Docs is I want you to think of a moment or something that you have done that you need to apologize for. Okay, I am going to read these. So it doesn't have to be intense. I'm not your priest. You don't have to confess to me. But I mean, if you want to get more intense, you could. Just know that I'm going to read them. But something that you've done that like you think deserves an apology. So like, it could be from a long time ago, it could be from recently, it could be to a teacher, a friend, a parent, somebody who can read, so not your dog, but someone like that. All right, then you're going to write that down, and you're going to write down your audience. Who do you need to apologize to? Who is this person? Okay, once you've done that, you've written down your audience, write down just a couple things you know about your audience. So remember what I did last time where I was like, my mom, she's in her mid-50s, she's a conservative type lady, she has 5 kids, but she's an empty nester. Like, try and write down specifics about your audience. If your audience needs to be more than one person, like it's your family, it can be that, or it's your class. All right, then once you've got some details of your audience written down, now I want you to, where's my dog? Now I want you to write a thesis statement. So writing a thesis, and your thesis statement is going to be what you need to apologize for and why. So like, I'm sorry I hit you. Because I'm gonna think of something from my youth. I'm very embarrassed about this. I hit my sister once like really hard because I wanted to watch the X-Files. She wouldn't move. So I'm sorry I hit you because I wanted to watch the X-Files. That wasn't the right thing to do because you are much smaller and weaker than me. It's kind of a sorry, not sorry, isn't it? All right, so you're writing down your thesis statement, what you're sorry for, and why you're sorry for it, why that wasn't something that you should have done. And then once you're done writing that thesis statement, I am going to give you 10 minutes to write an introduction to that thesis. Maggie, writing about. Yeah, Zoe, if you want to just make it up, totally you can just make it up. Just any apology to any audience. Yeah, it's the Google Doc from Canvas. Any audience that you think needs to hear the apology. So in my case, it's going to be my sister Jessica because she's the one I hit. So I need to apologize to her. Okay, cool. Anybody else have any questions? You can write it in the chat or. Oh, it's California internet that Maggie says is not working. So I'm going to give you 10 minutes now. You're going to try to write a hook style introduction to your apology or a funnel style. And you need to decide what your audience is going to want to hear the most. If your audience is very proper and formal, they might like a funnel style more. But if you want more of a hook, your audience needs to be hooked in and you really need to get their attention with your apology. Like maybe you did something very, very wrong to them and they don't want to listen to you anymore, then you're going to need to use a hook style. Okay, for those of you, actually even those of you without your cameras on, you can give me a little reaction and give me a thumbs up if you know what you're doing. And then for everybody that can't hear me, I'm going to write it in the chat box. Thumbs up, okay. Still waiting to hear from a lot of you. If you have questions, write it in the chat box unless you can give me a thumbs up. Okay, cool, cool, cool. Most of you now. All right, so you're doing this in that Google Doc, writing a great solid intro to the side barely. Okay, good. Giving it a try. Trying a funnel or a hook intro. Okay, then I'm going to write to people that are confused still. Just a little interruption. If you are confused, I just wrote the instructions in the chat box. I'm hoping it'll be less confusing for those of you that have a lag. You have 5 more minutes. If you are still, if you feel like you're done with it, I want you to try to perfect it. Go through and make sure that all of your grammar is correct, that you've made the right decisions for the rhetoric, like this is going to reach them the best way it can. And for everyone else that's still working on it, you got 5 minutes. Kaylee, using I and you is totally fine when you consider this is a personal apology. And just in argument papers in general, it's okay to use personal pronouns. You want to use them sparingly, but you can use them. Okay, you guys have 1 minute left, so wrap it up. Make sure your thesis is at the end of your intro. Even if you already wrote the thesis, you include it at the end of the intro. Okay. Okay, you're not submitting that yet because we're going to use it for the second part of class. So I'm going to put the instructions here in the chat box for those of you where I'm lagging. Okay, so for everybody else, we're going to do something called 3-minute discussions. I'm going to put you in very small breakout rooms for each question about the Iliad that you're discussing. And you are going to change groups each time then. If you look at that Google Doc again, there are boxes that say 3-minute discussions. I have your answer and I have their answer. So what we're going to do is I'm going in our big group here, I'm going to give you a minute for each question to write down your answer in the box. Then you are going to go into your breakout rooms and you're going to discuss for 3 minutes. Actually, I want to do 2 minutes. So it's 1 minute for your own answer and then discussing for 2 minutes what your group's answers were so that you get lots of nuance about the different questions. So the questions are listed on the Google Doc or on the Canvas page, sorry. I put it in a slideshow. So the first question is on there, and I will share my screen so that you don't have to pull it up if you don't want to. So the first question is, who apologized better, Achilles or Agamemnon? So these start on line 63 through 84. For you guys in these packets, it's on page 490. And I want to kind of go through it with you before you answer this. So it's like Agamemnon is like, or Achilles is like, Agamemnon, was it better for both of us after all for you and me to rage at each other? It's like, hey, hang on a second. Did we get a good outcome by being so angry with each other? And then he says, like, it's all for just a young girl. If only Artemis had cut her down at the ships with one quick shaft. So if only Briseis had died, then we never would have fought, and I would have never raged on and on. So let bygones be bygones. And he says, now, by God, I call a halt to all my anger. And then Agamemnon is like, oh, yeah, totally. I was also wrong. This is on line 90. He says this to everyone, right? Let's all listen to Achilles. We don't want to interrupt him. I will declare my inmost feelings to him in front of you, the Greeks. And he says, but I am not to blame. Zeus and fate and the fury stalking through the night, they are the ones who drove that savage madness into my heart that day in assembly when I seized Achilles' prize on my own authority, true. But what could I do? The gods impelled me to do this thing. But look, it wasn't a good idea, and I'm sorry I did it. So those are their two apologies. So I want you to write down in the box under your answer. I'm going to time you and give you 1 minute to write your answer to that. Who apologized better? You have to say one is better than the other, even if they both stunk. Okay, so writing that down. Okay, so now I'm going to send you into breakout groups and you are going to write down your group's best comments. So you don't have to write it down word for word, just under your group's answers, you're going to listen to what they have to say and you're going to take note while they say it. I want this to be more of it doesn't have to be a very formal, you don't have to read what you wrote. That would get really boring because we're going to do this many times. Just explain what you wrote and the person can interpret that. Okay, so I'm going to open the rooms and you will do this for 2 minutes. Okay, while we're waiting for everyone, you can get their thoughts typed up. These go really fast. It's designed to keep us moving, keep us talking about interesting things. Okay, the next question is now on our slides. It is, why does Achilles' grief so quickly turn to anger? So there is what I think is one of the very best quotes in the Iliad. It's on your page 495, and it's line 234 or so, or 254, sorry. He says, so they're talking about eating, right? They're like, what should we eat? We need to like have food for this big battle. And Achilles says, you talk of food. I have no taste for food. What I really crave is slaughter and blood and the choking groans of men. It's just so violent and crazy. So he's immediately like, he grieves for his lost friend, right? His very close friend. And yet, and immediately though, like really soon after that, it turns to like rage again. So he was raging in the first half of the play about his pride and people treating him what he thinks is badly, right? And now he is raging at the Trojans, at Hector, for killing his friend. So there's your answer. Why do you think grief so often turns to anger? I mean, your question. You write down your answer for 1 minute. under question 2 on the Google Doc. Okay, time's up. All right, I'm going to send you into new rooms this time. So you'll have someone new to talk to for 2 minutes.
Okay.
Aspen, sorry, I gotta assign you.
It's all good. Mike thing kicked me out of the meeting last breakout room, so.
Okay, that might happen. Okay, it looks like some people get kicked out when we do this, but is it mostly working for you guys? Okay, okay. So if you get kicked out in this process, just join back in and I'll let you in right away, even though that's annoying. Okay, so our next question is about what Achilles knows. So when we were, right before Achilles goes into battle, he starts talking about how he knows that if Hector dies, he's going to die. So this is on your page 502. 502. And he's talking about like there's this weird like part in this book which I really like where one of the gods makes the horses speak so that the horses can like warn Achilles. And he's talking to, I mean, the horse talks to him and says, still, you are doomed to die by force. This is right at the end of book 19. Still, you are doomed to die by force, Achilles, cut down by a deathless god and mortal man. So if you go into battle, you are doomed to die. And the horse doesn't speak anymore. The Furies strike him dumb, but the fiery runner Achilles burst out in anger. Why, roan beauty, why prophesy my doom? Don't waste your breath. I know, well, I know. I am destined to die here, far from my dear father, far from my mother, but all the same, I will never stop till I drive the Trojans to their bloody fill of war. A high stabbing cry, and out in the front ranks, he drove his plunging stallions. So he's like, I know I'm going to die. I know that will be my fate. I know it's far away from my parents, and yet I'm going to do it because I want to show the Trojans, like, you know, I want them to feel my pain, basically. So do you think that this is an act of bravery or an act of stupidity or something else that I haven't thought of? What is this, brave or not? Okay, I'm going to give you a minute to write that in your answer. Okay, then I just need to make a little adjustment in here and send you into the breakout rooms again. Okay, go and talk for 2 minutes. And then Austin, I'm trying to assign you a 1 for some reason. It's taken too long. There we go. You're going to go to breakout room 2. You got kicked out, Zach?
Sorry about that. My internet just cut out on me.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's okay. Just wait. Just write that in the box where it said group answer, and just wait one more minute for people to come back.
All right.
Okay. So the next question is very similar, but this time it's about Hector. So Hector also knows that his chances of surviving this fight are very slim. And this is where you get that scene where his mom and his dad are begging him not to go into battle. And this is where his mom like bears her chest and says, "Have some respect for this," which is such a funny thing to do to me. But basically, she's like, "Have some respect for the fact that I am your mother and that I will grieve you." And she says, this is on your page 544. She says, "Beat back that savage man from safe inside the walls." This is on line 100. "Beat back that savage man from safe inside the walls. Don't go forth a champion pitted against him, merciless, brutal man. If he kills you now, how can I ever mourn you on your deathbed? Dear branch in bloom, dear child I brought to birth, neither I nor your wife, that warm, generous woman, now far beyond our reach. Now by the Argive ships, the rushing dogs will tear you, bolt your flesh." So his mom doesn't really have much faith in Hector winning this battle, right? And everyone that that he talks to is kind of like, "You're gonna lose this thing. Don't go." So what I'm asking now is Hector knows that Achilles is much stronger than him, right? Like Achilles is half god. Doesn't It's not a slight on Hector so much as it is talking about Achilles and how strong he is, right? And yet he leaves to fight Achilles anyway. So same as before, is this an act of bravery or is this an act of stupidity? I'm going to give you 1 minute to write in your own answer. Okay, awesome. And now you're going to go into rooms and discuss.
Knowing he's going to die. But it was also kind of like stupid because he should have just like, if he stayed behind or like fought other Trojans and not Achilles, he wouldn't have died. And his family and his wife would have been happy with him at least.
Hey, Zach, I just wanted to say, because you said your internet isn't working, you can just write this on a piece of paper, handwrite it, and then you can turn it in later.
All right, I'll do that.
Okay, I'm leaving, so it won't be so awkward. Goodbye.
Looking at me.
All right, our next question. So I want to skip this one. Don't skip it on your Google Doc, just do the next question. All right, so this book in book 22, it takes on like an interesting attitude when you consider that this was written by a Greek, that it was a story passed down in Greek culture. It's interesting the way that it talks about Hector and Hector's side of the battle here. So for your next question, I'm going to give you a minute. And when I say use evidence, it doesn't have to be direct evidence. You can just kind of write what you remember happening in book 22. I'm going to give you 1 minute to write about what you think what tone you think the text has towards Hector. So again, like, what does this text feel about Hector? Okay, 1 minute to write about that. Okay, now I am going to give you 1 minute to find direct evidence for that tone. So you're looking through book 22, you are finding something, hopefully something you annotated that tells us what the tone actually is. So I'm going to give you 1 minute and add that direct evidence to your answer. Okay, all right, I'm going to send you into breakout rooms again because I know we love these. And I'm just going to leave the rooms the same this time and talk about your answers, talk about the evidence you found too.
No. Minute.
Okay, everybody's back. Okay, there's 2 more questions. Here's the next question. At what point in this text, if ever, do you feel Achilles' revenge goes too far? So here in book 22, he's so angry. He's like, I will feast on the blood of Trojans, right? Like he's just so upset. Is that already going too far with his revenge? Does it seem justified to you to, in a war, right, to kill the person who killed your friend? Or to be, you could even think of it less as revenge and more as just like tactical, like he is the head, he's the strongest person in the Greek army, and he's going into battle to kill the strongest person in the Trojan army. Then after he dies, though, he like desecrates the body, right? Like he's gonna like drag it around by its heels in front of Hector's parents. So at what point do you think it goes too far? I'm gonna give you, if ever, maybe you feel it's justified. Okay, I'm gonna give you 1 minute. And you can do this without the textual references, just writing from what you remember. When does it go too far?
Do we have to quote when he went too far?
No, not for this first minute. I am going to make you in a minute find a spot.
All right.
Okay, just like I said there, now I'm going to give you 1 minute to find a spot in the text where you think he's gone too far. It doesn't have to be the moment when he switches from being justified to going too far. That might be too hard to find in a minute. But find one quote here where you feel like Achilles, has gone too far to be considered moral anymore. Okay, 1 minute. Okay, breakout groups, we'll just do the same ones again. Actually, I'm going to switch them up this one time. Recreate. You have bigger rooms this time. I didn't want that. All right, I'm going to send you into the rooms, 2 minutes. Can you guys hear my dog? He's being bad. Well, you can't blame him. There's a stray cat in our backyard. Of course he's gonna go bark. Okay, this is the last question. Ashton's having a tough time getting back in. Hang on. All right, last question. This one is like really up to you. I don't know that the text fully answers this one. There's two parts to this. Achilles knows he's prophesied to die, right? When Hector dies. Hector knows that he's going to die at the hands of Achilles. So at some point earlier in their lives, we see Achilles get this prophecy, but Hector, we're not so sure. But he's fairly sure that he's going to die, right? So what I want to know is fate within their control at all? Do they have free will? Or have the gods determined exactly how all of this is going to end up? So give you 1 minute to think about and write down your question for that one. Do you think that these characters have free will at all? Or because the gods are involved in it, does that mean they don't have free will and that it is just when they're fated, that means that they are just going to have to succumb to fate? So I'm going to give you a minute to write down your answer. And then we'll be out of time, so you won't have to talk about this one in groups. Okay, time's up. All right. So we will pick up with this question when we come back. This is really a big question in this book. Do human beings have any sort of choice over their actions, or are they just at the whims of the gods? So I just pulled up the schedule here for you to see it. You're going to turn in your Google Doc that you were just working on, turn it into the Canvas assignment for today. The next time we meet is not till Monday because we got Thanksgiving break, and we're doing another symposium, and you're going to do a Flipgrid for that. So I'm hoping those Flipgrids take you like 15 minutes to do tops. Those are kind of like to make up for, you have a little bit of reading, quite a lot of reading sometimes for the Iliad, but then the Flipgrids are short. So you don't have much to do over Thanksgiving break then. The only thing you need to do if you want to is, if you got a really low score on your Jamaica Kincaid essays and you want to do a rewrite, those rewrites are due by November 30th, the end of the month deadline. But if you are good on that score, then you only have that Flipgrid for homework. Let me see, there's a question in the chat box. Oh, you hate doing Flipgrids. I get that. It's on purpose that I want it to be a little bit awkward. So I'm gonna force you to do them still. But how about this? This will be the last unit that we do Flipgrids for. Does that work for you guys? So you'll do it. You'd rather do it than annotations. So you'll do this last Flipgrid, and I will make it your last Flipgrid. The reason that I'm doing them is it gives you these debate practice skills to actually articulate your arguments. So it was for a purpose, but I'm seeing you guys should revolt against me. Okay, this is the last one. Have a good Thanksgiving. Let me stop my share. Turn in that assignment on the Canvas page. Is there anything I missed? Any other questions you guys have?
So we only have the Iliad then this week, right?
You had the Iliad for today, yeah, for the annotations and the response, and then that's all for this week, yeah.
All right. So when is book 24 due again? Reading
That
book
will be
24?
due next Wednesday.
All right, cool. Thank you.
Okay. Keegan, you turn in what you were just working on in that Google Doc. So it has the apology and the discussion questions in it. Thanks, Zoe, I will. I'm gonna have a great Thanksgiving. I'm gonna stuff myself. All right, Mercedes, we'll wait for everyone to take off, see if they have any questions, then I'll tell you what to do. And I'll stop the recording.